Welcome to today's Explainer. We usually think of history as this clean marble narrative. Battles are won, empires expand, and the defeated, well, they just kind of fade away. But today, we're going way past that sanitized version. We're stepping right into the room where the real history happened to uncover the deeply unsettling truth of how the Roman Empire actually defeated its greatest enemies. Because, as you'll see, it wasn't always with a sword. Sometimes it was with something far, far more permanent. Let's get right into the record. So the year is AD 272. I really want you to picture this. There's a woman racing a camel across the blinding heat of the Syrian desert, heading straight toward the Euphrates River. She is literally just feet away from the water, just feet away from the Persian border and from total safety. The currency she desperately needs is right there, close enough to actually see. But then, the sound of Roman cavalry thunders right behind her. The horsemen run her down right at the water's edge, and heavy iron chains go on her wrists. Her name? Queen Zenobia.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because what makes this capture so absolutely monumental is what happened just 18 months prior. Zenobia hadn't just rebelled. No, she had done the unthinkable. She put her hand around the throat of the Roman Empire and started to squeeze. She was literally the most dangerous woman in the world to the Romans, and they were, frankly, obsessed with taking her down.
Part 1. Choking the Empire. Let's talk about the grain factor. To understand Rome's absolute obsession with her, we have to look at this grain factor. Zenobia didn't just seize some empty, dusty territory. She marched straight into Egypt and captured Alexandria, the vital port that fed the entire empire. Look at this number, 1 million. Just try to imagine the sheer, visceral terror of 1 million people in Rome waking up one morning to realize the bread is gone. The grain shipments had stopped. Why? Because a woman in the desert decided the ships simply wouldn't sail. In the eyes of Rome, this wasn't just a bold political maneuver. It was an unforgivable death sentence for their people.
Part 2, Ash in the Desert, Aurelian's impossible march south.
Emperor Aurelian answered this move with a brutally fast march south that completely defied military logic. And when he finally met her forces, he displayed sheer tactical brilliance. I absolutely love this point right here. Knowing Zenobia had this devastatingly heavy armored cavalry, Aurelian executed a perfect feigned retreat. He basically tricked her heavily armored forces into endlessly chasing his lighter troops, luring them deeper and deeper under the brutal, punishing Syrian sun. That heavy armor, which was initially her biggest strength, became a literal death trap. Inside that metal, the horses and the riders practically cooked from heat exhaustion.
So by the time Zenobia was finally run down and chained to the banks of the Euphrates River, she wasn't leading a mighty rebellion anymore. Her once great empire was already completely decimated, literally turning to ash behind her in the desert.
Part 3, Breaking Rome's oldest rule. Let's look at the gap in the standard narrative. You see, Rome had a very old, very simple, and honestly very grisly rule for defeated rebels. The standard operating procedure was to violently parade the defeated leader through the cheering crowds of the city. Then they were dragged down into the Tullianum. That's a dark, subterranean prison in Rome, where they were simply strangled in the dark. This wasn't some rare occurrence. This was the exact historical standard applied to Rome's greatest enemies. It's how Vercingetorix died, it's how Jugurtha died. When Zenobia finally arrives in Rome in AD 274 for Emperor Aurelian's grand triumph, she is paraded through the streets. But she is burdened with so much gold and so many heavy jewels that she can barely take a step. It was such an overwhelming display of wealth that Roman guards literally had to walk beside her, lifting her chains up, just so she had the physical ability to keep moving forward. And this brilliantly illustrates the twist. The crowd in Rome was waiting for the bloody ending they had always been given, the execution. But Aurelian broke the empire's oldest rule. Instead of tossing her into a dark, subterranean cell to be strangled, Aurelian gave Zenobia a luxury villa at Tibur, nestled right in the fashionable hills outside Rome. He took the most dangerous woman in the world, the woman who almost starved his capital to death, and turned her into a wealthy Roman matron.
Part 4, The Gilded Erasure.
We really need to slow down and unpack this incredible mercy, because it came with a truly horrifying caveat. Picture Zenobia sitting comfortably in her beautiful garden in the Italian hills, listening to the birds sing. But as she sits there, She carries the chilling reality that back in Syria, her magnificent city of Palmyra has been completely annihilated. After her people attempted a second revolt, Aurelian marched back and unleashed total destruction. He destroyed every single wall, every temple, every street. Zenobia got the luxury villa. Her people got the slaughter. So why would Rome do this? It's simple, really. Rome didn't want a martyr. They wanted a possession. By intentionally keeping her alive and wrapping her up in luxury, the empire deliberately denied Zenobia the enduring, powerful legend of a heroic death. Think about it. A dead queen is a symbol to rally behind. A wealthy, comfortable Roman matron? That's just a trophy. In fact, Rome's erasure of her legacy was so meticulous that they intentionally left 3 conflicting endings to her story in the historical record. Depending on the source you look at, you might read that she died on the road to Rome, or that she was beheaded, or that she lived a long life in the hills of Tubor. They purposely scattered the truth so that history could never solidify a single empowering narrative about her. Over time, she and her descendants were entirely absorbed. They were seamlessly folded into the Roman bloodline. Within just a few generations, her lineage consisted of ordinary Roman nobles. These were people who had completely forgotten that their ancestors were once pharaohs who challenged the greatest empire on earth. They were erased not by the sword, but by assimilation. It's a stark reminder for all of us studying these events. History doesn't remember what's most important. It remembers what's most useful to the victors. Zenobia authored her own brilliant, defiant version of history in the stone inscriptions of the desert. But Rome wrote the version that was useful to them, and that is the exact version that survives in our textbooks today. Which leaves us with a haunting final thought to consider as we wrap up this explainer. Look at Aurelian's calculated mercy. Look at the gilded erasure of Queen Zenobia and ask yourself, when it comes to conquest, is it more total to kill an enemy or to make them indistinguishable from you? Thank you for learning with me today. Take some time to think about that, and I'll see you in the next one.